ever woken up one morning, looked at yourself in the mirror, and felt like a stranger was staring back at you? I have. Not just once, not just in passing, but in seasons of my life where I felt like I was walking in someone else's shoes, breathing someone else's air, playing a role I no longer recognized. The scariest part wasn't that I didn't know who I was. It was that I had become so good at pretending that I forgot I was pretending at all. We grow up being told who we are. You're the smart one. You're the quiet one. You're strong. You don't cry. You always smile. You're the sunshine of the family. These labels, sometimes given with love, sometimes with carelessness, begin to shape our mirrors. We start seeing ourselves not as we truly are, but as others expect us to be. And slowly, silently, like a tide that rises overnight, our own voice becomes buried beneath layers of other people's definitions. I used to think I knew myself. I had a career, a relationship, a plan. I was on track, or so I thought. But deep inside, in that quiet place I rarely dared to visit, there was a whisper, small, persistent, aching. This isn't who I am. This isn't where I'm meant to be. But I ignored it, like many of us do, because it's easier to keep moving than to stop and ask hard questions. Because stopping means risking collapse. There's a point in life when the noise outside is so loud, you can no longer hear your own thoughts. That's when you realize the life you've built might be standing on shaky ground. For me, that moment came on an ordinary Tuesday. Nothing dramatic. No heartbreak, no explosion. Just a quiet stillness that settled over me as I sat on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by success, by things, by proof that I was doing okay. But I wasn't okay. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't run from that truth. So I began the journey. Not the kind you can map on Google. Not the kind with plane tickets and luggage. But the kind that begins with a question. Who am I when no one is watching? It's a terrifying question because the answer isn't always beautiful. Sometimes you find brokenness. You find unhealed wounds from childhood. You find habits you thought were personality traits, but are actually survival mechanisms. You find fear, so much fear, wrapped in smiles, in business, in perfection. But you also find fragments of light. You find memories of when you felt most alive, laughing in the rain, riding late into the night, painting your soul into colors you never dared to show. You find a version of yourself that's not trying to be good enough, because they already are. The road to self-discovery is not straight. It doesn't come with clear signs or cheering crowds. In fact, many won't understand why you're taking it. Some will call you selfish. Some will say, you've changed. And maybe you have. But change isn't betrayal. Growth isn't abandonment. Choosing yourself is not a rejection of others. It's a return to truth. Some days on this path, you'll feel lost. You'll wonder if you're making progress at all. You'll feel the pull to go back to comfort, back to roles that were safe, even if they weren't real. But please don't, because every step you take, even the ones that feel like you're walking in circles, are part of the unfolding. Every tear, every doubt, every silence, they're making space, not for a new you, but for the real you, the one that's been waiting. Learning to sit with the silence. I used to hate silence. In the silence, my thoughts would scream. Memories I'd buried long ago would resurface like ghosts in the dark. Regrets whispered from the corners of my mind, reminding me of who I used to be and who I failed to become. So I filled the silence. With music, with work, with people, with noise. I told myself I was productive, social, focused. But the truth was simpler. I was afraid. Afraid that if I stopped moving, the truth would catch up to me. And it did. One morning, I sat by the window with a cup of coffee. No music, no notifications, no distractions. Just silence. At first, I felt restless. My fingers twitched, reaching for my phone. My mind scrambled for a list of things to do. But then, something strange happened. I heard the wind brushing the leaves outside. I saw light dancing on my floor like water. I felt the rhythm of my breath, slow and steady. And I realized, silence isn't empty. It's full of messages we've forgotten how to hear. In the stillness, I began to remember parts of myself I had long abandoned. I remembered how I used to love drawing as a child. Not for anyone to see, not for likes or praise, but just to feel the colors move through me. I remembered the quiet joy of sitting under a tree, watching clouds shift and imagining stories in their shapes. I remembered the peace I felt in solitude, the peace that didn't ask me to prove anything. That's when it hit me. The journey to find yourself isn't about becoming something more. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. There's a line I once read. The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. It's true. Our minds are full of rules and comparisons and fears. But our soul whispers. And the only way to hear it is to slow down. Somewhere along the path, I stopped searching for big answers. I stopped asking, what's my purpose? And started asking, what brings me peace? What makes me feel like myself? What moments make me forget the need to impress? The answers were never dramatic. They were small, humble, ordinary. A walk with no destination. A conversation with someone who listens without fixing. A moment of laughter that came out of nowhere. It was in these moments that I felt closest to myself. Not the version of me I performed, but the one that simply was. And maybe that's the secret. Finding yourself isn't about grand epiphanies. It's about learning to be present with your own presence. It's about looking at your reflection, tired, flawed, hopeful, and saying, you are enough, even now, especially now. Ouching the wounds, finding the light. Healing doesn't begin when things get better. It begins when we stop pretending that we're not hurting. For a long time, I told myself I had moved on. From the disappointments, from the rejections, from the grief. I had learned to laugh through it, to work through it, to distract myself so efficiently that even I believed I was okay. But pain doesn't disappear when ignored. It waits. And when I finally slowed down, I realized it had been waiting for me. There was a day I opened an old journal I hadn't touched in years. Its pages smelled like dust and memory. I read words from a younger version of myself, raw, scared, brave in ways I had forgotten. She had dreams I never honored. She had wounds I never healed. And worst of all, I had left her behind. I cried for her. And in that moment, I cried for me too, because I finally saw how much of myself I had sacrificed to keep going. We live in a world that praises resilience. Be strong, they say. Move on. Don't look back. But sometimes, healing looks like breaking down. It looks like falling apart in the safety of your own truth. And it takes immense courage to feel what you never gave yourself permission to feel. Grief for the love that never came back. Anger at the injustice you endured in silence. Regret for the chances you never took. These feelings, they're not your enemies. They are your messengers. The journey to find yourself will bring you face to face with these emotions. You'll want to run. You'll tell yourself it's too late, too painful, too much. But let me tell you something I wish someone had told me sooner. You can't outrun what lies inside you. You can only turn toward it, gently, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. And when you do, something beautiful begins. Not right away, not all at once, but slowly. The pain becomes softer, not gone, but held. I started writing letters I never sent, to people who hurt me, to people I hurt, to versions of myself I didn't understand at the time. Some letters were full of rage, some were full of tears, some were just quiet. But in writing them, I gave voice to what had been trapped inside me for years. And in doing so, I began to free myself. Healing isn't linear. Some days back into old patterns and wonder if anything has changed at all. But it has. Because you are no longer ignoring. You are no longer abandoning yourself. And that, my friend, is the essence of healing. Not perfection. Not absence of pain. But presence to yourself, with all your flaws, with all your truth. Rebuilding from within. There is a quiet moment after the storm, when the winds die down, when the world seems to hold its breath, when you realize you've survived, you're still here, not untouched, not the same, but alive and aware, and more you than ever. No one talks enough about what comes after the healing starts, not the dramatic transformation, but the slow rebuilding, the moment when you begin to choose what to carry with you and what to leave behind. You see, after we've touched our wounds, after we've sat with our shadows, we're left with a question. So, who do I want to become now? And the beauty of that question is this. You get to answer it. Not based on what others expect, not based on who you used to be, but from the deepest place of truth, the place you uncovered through pain, silence, and reflection. For me, it started with small choices, waking up without checking my phone first, saying no to things that drained me, saying yes to solitude, not out of loneliness, but as a gift. I began to rebuild rituals, not routines to fill the day, but practices that grounded me. A walk in the morning sun, a journal entry before bed, music that felt like home, phone calls with people who saw the real me and stayed. These weren't drastic changes, but day by day, they began to reshape my life from the inside out. I also learned something surprising. The parts of myself I had once hated weren't flaws. They were signals. My sensitivity wasn't weakness. It was empathy. My quietness wasn't absence. It was depth. My doubt wasn't failure. It was discernment. I had spent so long trying to fix myself, when really, I needed to listen to myself. And when I did, I found strength I didn't know I had. Not the loud, aggressive kind, but the quiet, steady kind that says, I know who I am now, and I don't need to prove it. Rebuilding yourself is not about erasing the past. It's about integrating it. Taking what you've learned, what you've lost, what you've loved, and letting it inform, not define, who you're becoming. It's about walking forward without rushing, without trying to arrive somewhere. Because the truth is, there is no final destination. There is only the deepening. Each day you show up as your truest self. That is the journey. One day, you'll look back, maybe while washing dishes or walking home, and realize you feel light again. Not because nothing hurts, but because you've made peace with the parts of you that once screamed. You'll smile for no reason. You'll cry and not apologize. You'll say, I love you without fear. And you'll finally understand. The longest journey was never about changing yourself. It was always about coming home to who you've always been. Choosing yourself again and again. There's something sacred about ordinary moments when you've been through the storm. The quiet sip of tea in the morning. The laughter that comes unexpectedly. The way you hold your own hand when no one's watching. They carry a depth now, not because they've changed, but because you have. This journey to find yourself, it never really ends. It shifts. It deepens. It softens. But the core of it is this. Learning to choose yourself, not once, not just when it's easy, but over and over again, especially when it's hard. You will still have days of doubt. You'll still hear old voices echoing, questioning your worth, your direction. But now you have something stronger, a home within yourself. And that home is made of everything you faced. The wounds, the wisdom, the tears, the truths. I used to think the destination was clarity. That one day I'd arrive at a place where everything made sense, where I'd have answers, certainty, peace. But now I see, the destination was always presence. Being fixed, but real. I've come to love the version of me that isn't always sure, who still stumbles, who sometimes forgets her own light. Because that version is alive. She's honest. She's trying. And most importantly, she's mine. So if you're listening to this and wondering if you're lost, let me tell you, you're not. You're unfolding. You're becoming. You're returning. It may feel long. It may feel lonely. But I promise you, the road back to yourself is the most beautiful path you will ever walk. Because every step brings you closer to the one person you're guaranteed to spend the rest of your life with. You. So breathe. Be gentle. And keep going. The world doesn't need a perfect version of you. It needs the real you. The one who's still here. Still growing. Still choosing love, even when it's hard. Still walking the longest, hardest, most sacred road there is. The journey to find yourself.